Hey Nine, second lesson for this week, and we're going to jump in talking about this idea of simple interest. So before we tackle that, what is interest? Interest is, in terms of a financial sense, when some kind of money is invested, and for me to make a profit. All right, so part of my business is to put money somewhere, and at the end of that, I want to gain some profit. All right, so that profit is what we call interest when we're talking about some examples of this financial one. And this comes in various forms. All right, the most common example people know and understand interest is from banks. And when banks charge people when people borrow money to get a home loan and pay back their loan, banks charge them interest. All right, if you think about this, this is from the bank's point of view. The bank want to make money. You were buying a house. The bank has invested money into you. They've given you $500,000. They've invested $500,000 into you so you can go buy a house. And then when you pay the bank back that $500,000, the bank wants to make some profit. So they charge you a little bit extra. And that little bit extra that they charge you, that's what we call interest. And how is interest calculated? Well, it's a percentage of the amount. And there's a few different ways that we calculate those percentages. And we're just going to talk about the first one here, which is just simple interest. When we talk about simple interest, interest is equal to the principal times the interest rate times the number of periods. Or in short, I equals P times R times N. And caused by mathematicians, and this is just an algebraic expression, I is equal to PRN, right? I, interest, is equal to the principal times the interest rate times the number of periods. So let's break those down. I, interest, it's the amount of profit / return on an investment. All right, and remember, even though that you're borrowing the money from the bank and you're paying the bank interest, that interest is the profit for the bank. If you loaned your parents, your friends money, and you charged them a little bit extra when they gave you all that money back, that's your profit, that's your interest. Principal. The principal is the amount invested or borrowed at the beginning. Right. So if I wanted to buy a house and I went to the bank and I said, I need $500,000 to buy this house, the principal is $500,000. That's the initial amount that was invested or borrowed. Rate, it's the interest rate. And we remember interest rate, there's lots of ways that we can describe interest rates. We can have 5%. Now it's interesting, this PA part, PA just stands for per annum, which just means per year, right? Most commonly, interest rates are described as 5% per annum, 8% per annum, 0.25% per annum. However, remember, we're mathematicians, percentages are great, but fractions are our friends. And I will encourage you to use fractions. So if it was 5% per annum, we're going to say that's 5 over 100. Fractions are our friends. Okay? And finally, that N, the number of periods, well, periods just equals the amount of time. Right? Now, there's something very crucial here. We wanted to describe in the same units. All right. So if my interest rate is 5% per annum, well, my amount of time, because it's a per annum, a per year thing, I want to describe that as how many years did I invest something for. If it was 2% per month, I'm going to describe it Well, how many months did I invest it for? So that's something we need to remember, that those two things, they need to be described in the same units. If one's in years, the other needs to be in years. If one's in months, the other needs to be in months. If one's in days, the other one needs to be in days. And yes, there are institutions that will charge you interest per day. A good example of that would be credit cards. If you have a credit card, that's interest per day. All right, let's go through and look at an example, see how these work. So example 1 here. Well, calculate the amount of simple interest earned when $4,500 is invested for 4 years at 3.5% per annum. So one thing quickly jumping on board, there's a per annum, there's a years. All right, so happy days, they're in that same time unit. So what I'm going to do, when I answer these questions down the left, I encourage you to write I, P, R, and N, and let's highlight the information from the question. So our N is 4 years. All right, 4 years. Our R was 3.5% per annum. So 3.5% per annum. And remember that they're both in years, so we're happy. And 3.5% is 3.5 over 100. Now the principal is the amount of money that we've invested or put into the account. And we can see it's 4,500. So 4,500. And the interest, well, we've been asked to calculate the amount of simple interest. So we don't know it, it's what we're asked to find. Now that we've got all the information identified, we just need to substitute it into the equation, into that formula, and solve. So remember, it's I equals P R N. So I is going to equal P, which was 4,500, times the interest rate, which was 3.5%. Fractions are my friends. And we're going to multiply that by 4. So grabbing out your calculators and evaluating that. Now that we've calculated that, what we see here is that the amount of interest earned is $630. So we put $4,500 into a bank account or something, leave it alone, don't touch it, don't spend it, and after 4 years, there's an extra $630 given to us. Okay, let's look at example 2. Example 2 says convert 54 months to years. Now, you might be thinking, well, it's just a time problem. Why is that important? Well, remember, it's important because what we want is our R and our N to be in the same time periods. So sometimes that will mean us having to change months to years, years to months. So let's go through and do that. So 54 months, well, that is going to equal, if I want to change that to years, remember, 1 year is equal to 12 months. So what I need to do is, well, how many times does 12 fit into 54? So 54 divided by 12. Again, evaluating that. And when we evaluate that, we get 4.5. So 54 months is 4.5 years. All right, so moving on to example 3. All right, so example 3 here says calculate the simple interest when $500 is invested at 7% per annum for 54 months. So again, I would encourage you to go I, P, R, N. Let's identify these and let's go through. The question told us nothing about interest, so we've got to find the interest. The principal, how much did we invest? Well, we invested $500. At what interest rate did we invest it at? Well, it's 7% per annum, right? Per annum meaning per year, which that's just going to be 7 over 100 because fractions are my friends. And what was the time period for how long? Well, we invested that for 54 months. Now, notice those two are different. We have a per annum and we have a month. They're not in the same time unit, so we can't calculate it yet. However, fortunately enough, we already know that 54 months, or 55 years, and the second that we mention years, we're happy now because per annum is a per year and 4.5 years. We're all in the same time frame here. So now let's go through and calculate this. So remember that interest is equal to principal times the interest rate times the number of periods. So interest is going to equal to 500 times 7 over 100, fractions are my friends, and we're going to multiply that by 4.5. Again, getting your calculator out, evaluating that. Now that we've evaluated that, we find out that our answer is $157.50. All right, hopefully that made sense. It's a matter of just identifying the information from the question, remembering fractions are our friends, and finally, and probably one of the most important things with these questions is make sure that we've got a per annum and years together. If they're not the same time units, we're upset. We need to make them the same time units. All right, Year 9. So your work for this lesson, you need to go to Cambridge Go. You can follow the link in the assignment tab on Canvas. Go to exercise 2G. You need to complete questions 3A and C, question 6, question 9, B, E, and question 11. Remember, making sure you check your answers from the solutions, and if you have time, follow that link to mathspot.com and have a go at that. And as always, correct your work from the solutions. Fix any errors, make sure that your working out matches the correct answer, take a photo, and submit it to Canvas by Friday, 8th of October. All right, guys, until next lesson.